Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the new Marvel Legends Strong Guy Build-A-Figure. Probably the most anticipated Marvel Legends figure for me in a long time. I've always liked this character design, and when I saw the 3D rendering for the character, it looked awesome, and then they said they're gonna make a figure of it. And so I was excited for it. I thought that was pretty cool. And the figure turned out almost exactly like the rendering. It does suffer from some either QC or just general execution issues from the manufacturing standpoint, but as you can see, it looks basically like it did in the 3D rendering, so that's pretty cool. It turned out pretty good. So let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. This guy stands roughly, let's say, just over 20 centimeters, which makes him pretty close to 7 3/4 inches, something there about. And so let's go ahead and just stand him on the table and grab, let's say, Deadpool. And that gives you a good size comparison for what he is, and that seems about right. So I think that's all right. And if they're gonna do not giant Build-A-Figures, this is the kind of character we need more of. I'd like to see, what's the guy that's half gold, half silver? Isn't his name Metalhead? I had a figure of him when I was a kid. I'd love to see one of those. He's supposed to be a little bit bigger than normal. Or like Chode, or there's just so many characters that we could get that are about this size. I think that they should look at. Anyway, this is a perfect example, I think, of what we could get. And it's mostly executed really well. All the silver parts are painted, and they do a great job painting metallics. You can see how nice and shiny they are. That's awesome. And the rest is molded plastic, just about. The crotch is painted yellow because this is all one piece. It's not too bad. It's a little bit transparent, but mostly it's opaque, so it's good enough if you don't look too close. And then they painted the X, of course. That's surprisingly clean. Could maybe be a little bit more saturated, but they definitely didn't screw the X up. Half the time when they do X's, it's like over here, for example. So I'm glad they did that. The face is painted really nicely, sculpted really nicely, and so that's good. No issues there. All the little details are done well. Very aesthetically pleasing for the most part. There's one thing I want to address, which is an aesthetic issue for the articulation, is on mine, his right arm does not sit properly, and it's pegged in all the way. It just doesn't. There's a huge gap up here. I mean, you can see that. It's a giant gap, and it's not just for the articulation, because this gap is nowhere near as bad. And obviously this arm can articulate just fine. So is it a defect on mine, or is that just the way they're all made? As far as I can tell, mine looks normal, meaning that it's going to be that they're all that way, and that sucks. Yeah, it's hidden when you raise the arm up, but that giant gap blows. Plus, it makes the arm sit low. It looks odd. It should be up. So let me know if you guys have that issue. So that kind of blows, but who knows if that's universal or not. I can't tell yet because I only have one of these. The other thing that stands out to me as an aesthetics issue is his hands appear to be Hulk hands. I didn't pull out all my Hulks to check. Maybe they're from another figure even, I don't know. But his fingernails are on there, and the hands seem a little bit small for the sockets. So I'm thinking it's possible that they just threw some other hands on there that they already had that were just close enough. We'll see. I don't know if that's for sure, but he does have fingernails through his gloves, and the hands have a lot of room in those sockets to move. I don't think they're necessarily too small. I just think that maybe they were not designed at the same time, and that could be why we have fingernails. Who knows? One thing that's nice though, most of the figure is not glossy. That might be at most satin in some places, but it's got kind of a matte finish, and that's pretty nice. The anatomy for the legs, even though he's got the weird tapering effect that he has with the tiny feet that he's supposed to have, the legs are done really well. The anatomy's nice. The thighs are bigger than the calves, longer, very well done. Whoever did this knows anatomy and applied the stylization appropriately, so that's really good. I like all of it. It's really well done, really well sculpted, and put together well enough. So aesthetically speaking, I'm going to give this a I want to say 9, but things like this being solid plastic and no shading or any sort of differentiation anywhere, it does throw it off a little bit. There's really not much paint on this guy, so I'm going to go 8. I think we could use a little bit of paint here, if only for some shading, maybe. Just something to make it look a little bit less plasticky, but still, it's an 8. Of course, we don't have any accessories, so that's a 0. And as far as the articulation goes, the head is on a double ball peg, which is better executed than some of the other ones. You can see, though, that the peg and the ball are still almost the same size, and the neck is way bigger than the ball. So you get decent enough range because there's nothing impeding it, but you could get even more. That bottom ball should be bigger. Could be a lot bigger, which would give you a lot more range. But for what it is, it's enough. There's really no reason you would need more, but at the same time, there's no reason to limit it, because you can always not use it if it's there. If it's not there, you can't use it. But you do get to pose the head around just fine within that collar, so that's okay. For the shoulders, I already kind of showed you. You get just about horizontal on there, so that's good. And obviously you get your full rotation. We do have the silver down here. I think I would prefer they not do that. I get that they're doing it to match this, but at the very top, you're not going to see it as much anyway. Like, you have to look at it from the top, whereas if you pose his arm, you end up with a big silver armpit rather than a little bit of silver. Like, you're not going to move his arms back as often as you would move them forward. So I think I might prefer that in blue. I know why they do that, but I always kind of debate with myself which one's a better option, especially when I'm designing figures myself. I think sometimes they maybe should go against the grain and do the inside color, but whatever, it doesn't matter. It was just something I felt like talking about. Shoulders, elbows get about 90, not quite, and that's where your bicep swivel is. You don't get anything else in the arm, and that'll be fine for this guy, especially with the baggy clothes. Wrists do have a swivel and a hinge, of course. For the torso, it's just a diaphragm joint, which does lean back pretty far. That's nice. And going forward, not too far really, not a whole lot of range there. It's pretty limited. Rotation, you get it, it's fine. No real issues. He's very ovular, side to side. Obviously, he's wider than he is front to back. Maybe they could have cheated on that a little bit and pulled it out just to give him a little bit more of a fluid range, but it's fine. That's going to work no problem at all. I think most people will be fine with that. I've heard some people complain that there's no waist twist under the belt. I don't think you really need it. He doesn't have that much torso to worry about, and once you do that, you can't see it anyway, so I think that's perfectly fine. For the hips are nice and stiff. That's good for such a big body. They go out to the side just fine, no issues there. Going forward, a lot more limited. The trunks are sculpted such that you can't really raise the legs, so that kind of blows. Going back, you do get a little bit of range. Thigh swivel is a nice thigh swivel. Double jointed knee works just fine. Ankles, they go back pretty far, they go forward pretty far, and they have a nice rocker. I would like to see a little bit more a little more stiffness out of the ankles just because he is so top heavy, but I haven't really had any issues with that yet, so you shouldn't have to worry about that too much. God, that one shoulder just drives me nuts. Why is it like that? I sure hope they're not all like that and I can maybe get a replacement. But okay, so articulation on this guy, for what it is, it's fine. I'll give it a 9. I don't think you could do a whole lot better with it. I mean, look at his proportions. You're going to get what you're going to get, and I think they did a good job with that. So, final verdict on this Build-A-Figure. Aside from me really liking the character and wanting it to be good, aside from this terrible, I can fit my ruler inside his shoulder gap, it's a really solid release. Could have more paint, sure. Things like that, it can always be better, but it's a nice release. And as far as what it's supposed to be, and it being that, I think a 9 out of 10 is an appropriate rating. So, there you go, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, go ahead and tell me why in the comment section below. And if you haven't subscribed, you might want to. I've got new videos almost every single day, and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.